Hello everybody, I'm your host today, ReptTCG, and I shall be walking you through the 4.1 patch notes. Now, unlike last time, there are a few character card changes and way less action card changes. But before we get into any of that, let's look at our new cards, like our new character cards. Dehya, Wanderer, which I've named Goku myself, and you can see the name in game, that's nice, and Yaoyao. Now, how about we get started with the first one of them, Dehya. Dehya is a Pyro Claymore character. She deals 2 physical damage on her normal attack, and with her skill, she summons Fiery Sanction Field. If it already exists, then she will first deal 1 pyro damage. The effect of the Fire Sanction Field is as follows. End phase, you will deal 1 pyro damage, this happens 3 times, and when the summon is on the field and Dehya is on standby on your side, then when your active character takes damage, that damage will be decreased by 1, and if Dehya has at least 7 HP, she will take 1 piercing damage. This effect can occur once per round. Her burst is a 3 dice, 3 energy cost burst that deals 3 pyro damage and then performs repair skill for Incineration Drive. That will also deal 3 pyro damage. So that's a total of 6 pyro damage, but it's in 2 instances, so maybe that can be paired up for some reactions. Now, let's explain a bit how her Fire Sanction Field works. We've already said what it does, but let's take a situation where, let's say, Shenhe is the active character on your team, and the enemy Ito does a normal attack while Fire Sanction Field is on the field and Dehya has at least 7 or more HP. Now, we're taking Ito's normal attack as the one that deals only 2 physical damage, his normal one without any buffs from his burst or weapons. So, in this instance, Shenhe will only take 1 physical damage and Dehya will take 1 piercing damage because she has 7 or more HP. Understood? Perfect. Let's move on to her talent. Stalwart and True. This is a talent that costs 4 pyro dice, so a talent that costs 1 more than the usual skill cost. Upon use, it will immediately use her skill Molten Inferno once. In the end phase, if your Dehya has no more than 6 HP, heal that character for 2 HP, which means she takes damage from shielding allies or from just taking damage normally, and in the end phase, when your summon will deal damage, she will also be healed for 2 HP, only if she has less than 6. It's a nice talent, probably right down the middle, at least not a bad one. Let's move on to the hypest character of the patch, Wanderer. His normal attack deals 1 anemo damage and his skill 2, but his skill also gives him Wind Favored. Wind Favored is a status that says, when the character to which this attached performs a normal attack, the damage dealt will be increased by 2. And if the opponent has characters on standby, then the skill will deal damage to the next opposing character on standby instead. We're gonna talk more about this later. It is pretty complicated, it's a completely new mechanic just like Dehya. First, let's talk about his burst, which deals 7 anemo damage, and if the character has Wind Favor attached, then he will remove it and increase damage by 1, just like in the main game. Now, let's explain that Wind Favor status, specifically the part with the standby characters. Now, let's say he is in the Wind Favor status and he attacks Ito with a normal attack, because that is the skill that is mentioned in the status. So now we can see the next character is Barbara, the next standby character, the one on the right, which means instead of Ito taking 3 anemo damage from the normal, Barbara will take that damage and swirl to the other 2 characters. It is pretty nice thing for Shenhanemo, and I cannot wait to try him out and hopefully see the rise of Shenhanemo. Let's talk about his talent, Gales of Reverie, another forecast talent. Upon being played, he will immediately use skill Haniga, Song of the Wind, once. When Wanderer is in the Wind Favor state and after he uses a charge attack, you will spend 1 less elemental die next time you switch characters and deal 1 anemo damage. So now let's get into our last new character for 4.1, Yaoyao. Her normal attack deals 2 physical damage and her skill summons Yugue. Yugue throwing mode in the end phase will deal 1 dendro damage and heal your character that has taken the most damage by 1 HP. This can happen only twice. Her burst is a 4 dice 2 energy cost burst. That deals 2 dendro damage and creates a Adeptal Legacy. After you switch characters, you will deal 1 dendro damage and heal your active character for 1 HP. This can only be used 3 times. Unlike the other 2 new characters, Dehya and Wanderer, she hasn't introduced any new mechanics, so let's just get right into her talent. Beneficent. She will immediately use skill Rafana Sky Cluster once. When your Yugue throwing mode has only 1 user remaining, it deals +1 damage and healing is increased by 1 HP. This is a pretty alright talent considering the fact that it does not change the cost at all. As far as Yaoyao goes, I believe she's a bit of a mid character. She might have some places in summon decks, but right now I can't think of any deck that she wants to be in that you just don't put Nahida in or Kolei. She might be played in Polygram decks, as we will see in just a bit, so look forward to that. I think all the new characters this time around are just better than the 4.0 characters we got, and I cannot wait to play with Wanderer myself in the Shenhanemo teams for our new action cards. The first one is a weapon, Moonpiercer, that can be equipped to polyarm characters. When played, the character to which this is attached will spend 2 less elemental dice next time they use an elemental skill or equip a talent card. Just like King Square, this effect will not trigger again after used, so it's a one use. Considering all the support we've been having with weapon cards, this is pretty nice, and as we'll see, we got even more weapon card support that might work on this. We'll talk about it in just a bit, but until then, on to our next new action card, Crown of Watatsumi at 1 die. For every 3 HP of healing your characters receive, this card accumulates 1 sea-dyed foam for a maximum of 2 stacks of sea-dyed foam. When this character deals damage, you will consume all sea-dyed foam and the damage will be increased by each of them consumed. This is an alright artifact. It will only be played on Kokumi probably, but again, since it is a 1-cost artifact, it might see more play than we expect, especially since it doesn't say that must come from the character this is attached to. So you could technically attach it to someone else, have a healer on the team, accumulate the stacks, and then your DPS just deals even more damage. Like Bin, talking about Bin buffs, but this one is going to be a buff for a lot of decks. Our next new card, Yayoi Nanatsuki. When playing an artifact card, spend 1 less elemental die. On top of that, for each of your characters already equipped with an artifact on the field, you will spend 1 less elemental die, but this part of the card can only be activated once per turn. Yayoi Nanatsuki is just a Master Shank but for artifacts, which will be more useful since not a lot of decks run 2 of the same weapon, and even if they do, those 2 characters might not want the same weapons, but a lot of decks run their usual artifacts, Gamblers, Millet, and even the newest one, Venti Z, will definitely be using this card, as they just play artifacts over artifacts in order to outvalue your opponent. This is a card that is about to see a lot of play, in my personal opinion, and I am very scared of it, but also kinda excited to try it out. Let's talk about Gandharva. At only 1 die as the cost. Before you choose your action, when the number of elemental dice you have is 0, you will create 1 Omni Element die. That is a pretty nice effect because you will create only 1 elemental die. This effect can only happen once per turn. It's a location card, it might be used in W decks, I like it. It can save you with 1 more free switch before your DPS takes all the damage. And our newest Arcane Legend card, Fresh Wind and Freedom. It says, in this round, when an opposing character is defeated during your action, you can continue to act again when that action ends. This is a buff to basically every deck that was not a fan of using any of the other Arcane Legends card, and this kind of makes Monster's Resonance useless. Maybe they changed it. Spoiler alert. They did. And that will be all of our new action cards for this pack. Oh, never mind. We have Pankration. This is unfortunately a card that can be acquired through playing the main story, since you have to unlock it in a specific place after playing a bit of the newest Arcane quest, which means a lot of players that are here just for TCG, just like the Rhythm card, will not be able to play this error. This card can only be played when you have at least 8 elemental dice remaining and your opponent has not yet entered the round. After a player announces the end of their round first, the other player, who has yet to announce the end of their round, draws 2 cards. Now, there we go. That's all our new action cards. I won't be fooling you anymore. I'm very sorry about that. Let's move on to our character changes of the patch. Finally, we have some updates for these underplayed characters. And as you will see, they're all buffs. But all buffs means no nerfs for the people that deserve it. Ito, Shenhe are still going to rock the meta. Let's get into our new buffs though. Maybe there will be a new leader of the meta. For example, Childe Ajax Tartaglia. He got quite a few changes. Now, his elemental skill will also apply Riptide to target character, and the duration of Riptide is now unlimited. Also, his talent card got a little change. Now, the elemental dice cost has been decreased from 4 Hydra dice to 3 Hydra dice, and in the end phase, he will deal 1 piercing damage, but only to the active character affected by Riptide. So if you affect all the opponent's character by the Riptide, since it is unlimited now, they can't get rid of it, only 1 character will take damage, which is a fair balance buff considering the lowered cost and the new buff to Riptide itself. Also, his elemental burst got buffed. In the range stance, Flash of Havoc, his Hydra damage has been increased from 4 to 5. Some nice changes for Tartaglia. I believe he will see some play and we are going to see some meta decks. And we have to talk about our next Hydro boy, Ayato. The usages of Takimeguri Kanka State have been adjusted from 2 to 3, which means he will be able to do more Hydro enhanced normal attacks. Also, his elemental burst energy cost has been changed from 3 energy to 2 energy, and his initial damage adjusted from 3 to 1 to compensate for the lower energy cost. He can set up his burst summon earlier, and because of that, we might see him in a few other decks. His burst summon, don't forget, buffs normal attacks. And for another unexpected character, Cryo Cicin Mage changes. And for another underplayed character, Cryo Cicin Mage has been buffed. The buff is specifically targeted at her summon. The adjustment is as follows. What was before, after your character takes elemental reaction damage, this card loses 1 usage, is after the Cryo Cicin Mage takes elemental reaction damage, this card loses 1 usage. So you can set up her summon, change someone else, they take elemental reaction damage, and you don't lose the usage anymore. It's a nice small change that can definitely help her. The other Cryo character that got changes this patch is Diona. Her talent card's elemental dice cost has been decreased from 4 to 3. And for the last character card to get changes, Xingqiu's elemental burst initial damage has been buffed from 1 hydro damage to 2 hydro damage. And that will be all for the character card changes. Now onto the action card changes. We've got just a few of them, again, not as many as last patch, but last patch changes were inflated by the fact that they just decided to buff all the elemental artifacts. The first one, NRE. Its card cost has been decreased from 2 dice of any element to 1 die. For Teyvat Fried Egg, the card cost has been decreased from 3 dice of the same element to only 2 dice of the same element. Dunyarzad had an effect added to her. The first time you play a companion support card, you will draw a random companion support card from your deck. So you play Dunyarzad, you play a Paimon, and after playing the Paimon, you draw your other Paimon. Let's say those are your only companion support cards in your deck. It's a nice change, it's just a nice little buff to have. And similar to Dunyarzad, Shaft had the same effect added, but for food event cards instead. Now, for what I've been talking about earlier, for the weapon buffs and the artifact buffs, Master of Weaponry and Blessing of the Divine Relics installation have received a new effect. After changing weapons or artifacts, the number of times that the effect of the corresponding weapon or artifact can be triggered per turn will be reset. So let's say gamblers, you have somehow managed to use all of them. Let's say in an event, you can just use Blessing of Divine Relics and that effect will happen again. For Master of Weaponry, I believe weapons like the Bell, Kingswar, and Moonpiercer are indeed affected by this. Emblem of Severed Fate has come back this patch as well to get some more adjustments, just to nerf it a bit. The energy gain from this card's effect can only happen once per round. And for our last change of the patch, Wind and Freedom got a rework. With the release of Fresh Wind and Freedom, the newest Arcane Legend card, Wind and Freedom, the Mondstadt Resonance card, could not have remained the same. So its effect has been changed from, in this round, when an opposing character is defeated during your action, you can continue to act again when that action ends with the usage of 1, to during this turn, after one of your characters uses a skill, switch your next character in to be the active character. So this works similarly to Kazuha's elemental skill and Crane. So let's say you use your elemental skill with Ito and you want him to be safe, you will switch into your next character, which is probably Noel, and your Ito is safe. You either ramp and end your turn there, or keep switching. The switch is infinite. This can have its uses, but it is a way worse card than before, and I believe it will not be played that much anymore, but we have Fresh Wind and Freedom for that now. Anyways, that is all for today from us, and I would appreciate if you leave a like, a comment, and subscribe, since this does take a while to make. And if you have any questions related to TCG, you can just join our Discord server over at discord.gg/GITCG. I hope I see you there. This was ReptTCG, and have fun cooking, everyone.